So we can.
There you go.
Okay, all right. So I think we can go ahead, right?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So guys, welcome to another episode of the Book Zone community. We are here for another episode, and we are proud to have shall I say mommy? Shall I say auntie? Shall I say
How about just me?
big
I
sister?
am
Shall I
all of
say
those things and much more.
yes, yes.
But
So
I was in me long before I came all of them.
yeah. All right. Obviously. All right. So yeah, we're glad to have. I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this name correctly.
Yeah.
Lynn Podrat, right?
Perfect. And I love that little accent to it. I'm going to adopt it. Podrat. I love that. It was very
Okay.
good. Perfect. It's perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So Lynn is the author of the book story Listen to Me, right? That's the book title.
Well, it
Listen.
continues. It's, there are a lot of listens to me. And so the subtitle is How My Down Syndrome Brother Saved My Life.
Sure, I've gone through it. So I am a teacher of persons with disabilities too, so I understand all that. Yes. All right. So we are happy to have you today. So I think we are going to go straight to talking about your book now and the motivation, what brought about you writing this. I know a lot of parents outside there who have children with disabilities, both in Africa and outside Africa, are still battling with how they are going to accept the truth that we have child with disability, and to be precise, a child with Down syndrome. And for those who don't really know what Down syndrome is, it's a kind of disability that comes, and the manifestation is through physical features. You would see it every child around the world. They look the same physically. So I'm a teacher with person with disability, so I know all that. Right. All right. So let's go straight to the book. And I know the motivation of this book come from Bruce. Yes.
Yeah.
It comes from Bruce, and he is the reason why we have this book today.
True.
So we're so happy to have you, and then the idea behind writing this book. So as we continue, I know you will tell us more about this. So please, let's talk about the title of the book.
So Listen to Me was one of many of my brother's, we call them Brucey-isms, because part of Down syndrome, so the manifestation of Down syndrome is an extra chromosome.
Okay.
And you're right, they all have the same characteristics. They have the slanty eyes, a very large tongue. They usually have heart issues, health issues, teeth issues. That was it. So because of the overlarge tongue, sometimes it's difficult to understand them. Now, my brother, was a prolific speaker. He would go on about anything, whether he knew about it or not. He was very personable, but we couldn't always understand him, especially as he got older and, it was just the two of us. And so he would, and I would laugh and I would say to him, I don't know what you said. And he'd look at me and he'd go, listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. And I'd say, I'm listening. I don't understand you. You have to slow down. And then he would this was his face. And then he'd go on. So he would, take a deep breath, roll his eyes, like I was the issue, and go on. That's where Listen to Me came from. He was adamant that people hear him and pay attention. I don't know that he even really knew what he was asking for, but it was important for him to be heard. Always. I believe that Down syndrome people, all people with disabilities, they know they're different. They know they're different, which causes some shyness, discomfort. He knew he was different, and it didn't stop him. It may have stopped him from doing things, but it never stopped him from being with people in your face to meet you. And, if you looked sad, if you were on the street and you looked sad, he would like make a beeline. I'd say to him, where are you going? I'm going over there. Because
Okay.
he looks sad. I said, do you know that person? No, but I could. And I'd sometimes have to rein him in. Not everybody was comfortable with a total stranger walking up to them saying, it's okay, everything will be fine. But that was his personality. He was just sunshine. And so that's the title of the book.
Okay, listening to me. All right.
But it was so much more. He had a profound influence on my life of who I was and who I am. I mean, you know, I was 13 years old, so I was old enough to know whatever I knew or didn't know. You know, when you know something, I know the audience gets it. They go, yeah, I've been there. You know, when even if you don't know what you know it. And so that was the age where I was. And you're right. I thought it was so profound when you said that there are people in Africa, everywhere, no matter what continent, country, that have an issue accepting it's frightening to be a parent and having a child that's going to struggle, especially when they're in an environment that's a struggle anyway.
Yes.
And so I do know that, you know, the World Down Syndrome, the National Down Syndrome Association and the World Down Syndrome Association is sponsored out in that area. I will acknowledge that the African culture, I think the African culture, the African American culture, it's a different family dynamic. So the white culture and the Jewish white culture, people that are not perfect or brilliant, it's a shame, it's a disgrace, it's a shame, it's an embarrassment.
Yeah.
As opposed to, and that's very different now. I mean, if you go on Facebook or Instagram, Down syndrome is not anything anymore that's a disgrace. They are loud and proud. There's a young man that's running for office in Peru who's Down syndrome. You know, there's different levels of Down syndrome, just as there are autism. And so you can do anything. And there are companies that promote supporting that and working and understanding those with special needs that are different. Their definition of special is very different than the people that are embarrassed by saying they're special. And I think society is starting to do a better job of not disrespecting those who are different or disrespecting their families. You know, you have a child that was born with a special needs doesn't mean you did something wrong, right? It happens. And so, but my parents, being of the white Jewish culture, were advised to give him away. You know, and then we never speak of it again. So I don't know. That's not everybody. I mean, you know, so many of these people are home. I just met the son of the people that founded the Pennsylvania Association for Retarded Children. We don't say retarded anymore, but this was back in the let me see, my brother was born in 1967. So in the 1960s, they founded that organization. His brother, they were advised to give his brother away. And their parents said, I wouldn't do that to a dog. How could I do that to a baby? And so this Down syndrome young man was the oldest, and they had other children. In my case, I had a brother already, and this was the baby brother. And so I just met this man because of Instagram. He found out about the book and he reached out to me and said, oh my gosh, I had a brother like that too. And so you're right. It was, and his brother was older than my brother when my brother passed away. So back then, it wasn't even called Down syndrome. It was called Mongoloidism because their eyes were slanted and they looked Mongolian. And they had that yellowish coloring. They didn't have peaches and cream kind of coloring. So I don't know what African American babies coloring is, but they look exactly the same. Jamie, the famous actor Jamie Foxx, his sister was Down syndrome, but same
Okay.
characteristics as Down syndrome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're right, because of that chromosome. So that was how the title came about.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much about that. Okay, let me ask this question now. Are your book in chapters or just write like a story?
So the book is organized, the book is chapters, but within the chapters, it's more written in dates and memories. And
Okay.
so when I started writing this, I really wasn't writing it. My brother was not well. He had, kidney failure. So he was already on dialysis, had a kidney transplant, lost that other kidney. So he had been on dialysis a very long time. And in the summer, I guess July of 2020, the heat of COVID, he was
Yeah.
diagnosed with pancreatic cancer.
Okay.
There was nothing we were going to do about that. We weren't going to, there was no surgery that was going to help him. Because of dialysis, it would have shortened his life. And so, having been given that information, at the time I was in Colorado. We live in Colorado in the summers. And I was in Colorado, and as his guardian, everything had to go through me. So we couldn't go to the hospital. We couldn't fly yet. Everything was long distance with his group home people who were wonderful. They were my support system, my family. They were my family. And so everything was by phone. Everything was by FaceTime, Zoom, and phone calls. So
Yes.
so once he was diagnosed, I was hiking the mountains of Vail, Colorado, crying, talking, and remembering. And so I was talking into my phone. I just learned that you could do that because I couldn't climb and write. And then I would come back, and as I would talk to people, the family of his, group home, Kencrest, and my family, I was the bearer of the news. I had all the information, and then every single day would send it out to my other brother, my nieces, my children. And so that's how the memories were starting to flow. The dates, the memories, the information, and asking people to support it. So when I finally had it compiled, I realized that it couldn't be organized that way. It was not, it needed to be easy. If I'm asking you to read something I wrote, my job as an author is to make it easy for you to read it. And the only questions I should have you ask is because I've piqued your curiosity and you want to learn more of the subject. I shouldn't have you asking questions of going like, I don't get it. What does she mean? What is that? Does that flow? That's not what an author does. It's a heavy responsibility, and I took it very seriously. So when I was finished, and when I was done writing it and talking it and then typing it, having to put all together, I had it organized by date, but knew that couldn't be it. So I hired an editor who was marvelous, and he just let me talk. And eventually, I was the one that organized the memories into topics. Almost like an outline where you have your heading, and then you have your mini topics underneath it. The Roman numeral 1, Roman numeral 2, and so she helped me finite the chapters.
Okay.
But we kept the memories, not quite diary, because it has so much dialogue in it. It's not a thought; it's dialogue of the event. And so you can open the book and you can go to a memory. You don't have to read the book from the beginning of the end to know the story. There are one of the people that critiqued the book, that put the left me a review, loved the idea that you could open the book anywhere.
Okay.
And read something that could be sad, but was entertaining enough that would make you want to read what happened before and what happened after. But you could pick up the book and put it in the middle and still get a flavor of this story. And I worked very hard. So I worked very hard to keep it positive, even during the sadder moments, because it wasn't written with resentment or anger. There were parts of the time as a 13-year-old I was angry. I was 13. I don't know any 13-year-old that's not angry at times. I was a teenager. But there was no directed, anger. It was an angry moment. And I made her make sure that that attitude was also very, very clear. There was no blaming. It was, this is how it went. This is what happened. And this is how we flourished as children together into adulthood. So it's chapters, but stories within it.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much about that. Let's go back to the first part of your book that you talked about your age. At age 18,
13.
sorry, at age 13, your parents were expecting a baby, and that when he was born, that is Bruce, right? When he was born, they noticed that he came out with Down syndrome. Now, the situation came, I think your parents will have to deal with that situation. And I don't know how they try to explain this to you, because I know you capture all this in your book, that at age 13, your parents have to deal with the situation of their newborn baby, Bruce, which is, we just came here, the celebration that came with newborn babies and all that, excitement and all that. And for you, for you at age 13, you now realize that your brother came with Down syndrome. Now, how did you get to understand that Down syndrome is a kind of disability? Were you told in school? And then how was the motivation? I know we will keep going in that line till we get to the end of the story. But then this is like the beginning of it. So let's get to the beginning.
So we were, my mom got pregnant. So when she was pregnant, we were very excited. I mean, I was going to be 13 years old than my little brother, but I had a brother, and we were 4 years apart. We were 4 years apart. So there were two of us. That's David. Yeah. So, I was very excited to become a big sister, even when David was born. I didn't like being an only child. I was going to be 4 years old. I practiced on my favorite stuffed monkey, how to change a diaper and feed a baby a bottle. I was so excited. Most people go, did you want a dog? I loved animals. I wanted to be a veterinarian. I took care of all the dogs and cats and any animal in the neighborhood. So I already had all that. I didn't need my own. And people used to say to me, were you upset about getting a baby? Absolutely not. I wanted a baby, not a doll. It was a real baby boy. Like, Peter Pan. I wanted a real baby boy. And I was very excited to have him. And I had a lot of fun with him. We had a lot of fun together. And so when my mother said, we're having another baby, my first thought was, okay, like, why? Like, I'm 13 already. We're older. David's 9. You could go out and do your own stuff now. We can baby. I've been babysitting for him. We were all independent together. Who does that? But what do I know? They were excited. They were really, really happy. She was happy. They were happy. I was happy. It wasn't going to take anything away from me. I had another baby doll to play with. What did I care? And so we were excited. There was no thing of, oh my God, my parents are having a baby and I'm older. So he was born. She goes, has the baby. I remember my father waking me up early in the morning and saying, Lainey, I'm so sorry. I have good news and bad news. The good news is mommy had the baby. She's good. The bad news is it's another boy. I mean, they really thought I wanted a baby girl because I already had a brother. I did not. Yeah. I was thrilled it was another boy. I had no idea what I was going to do with a girl. And I hated the girl's name that my mother picked out anyway. So for the boy, she picked out this gorgeous name of Matthew Bryan. I thought that was beautiful. So the girl was Marla Beth. And I went, ugh. So I didn't tell her that. So I didn't need a girl. Oh, and it's a boy. And I thought, they should only know. I thought, that's great. I'm so excited. I wake up my other brother. We're dancing around. We're thrilled to death. That night, I'm in bed, David's in bed, my grandparents are over. Both my sets of grandparents were alive. And one of the sets, my dad's parents raised me when I was little.
Okay.
And so I hear him say, now if I'd been asleep, I don't know what my reaction would have been, but fortunately I was awake. And I hear him go, the baby's mongoloid, and he starts to cry. I don't know what mongoloid means,
Yeah.
but crying couldn't be a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so that next day, I was supposed to go see the baby in the hospital. I was supposed to go visit, we were supposed to go visit my mother and see the baby in the hospital. And my father sends David to school. David didn't come with us.
Yes.
I go, I don't tell him that I overheard anything. And I still don't know what it is. I just know it's a bad thing. So I go see the baby before I see my mother. My father
Okay.
goes to my mother. I go to the nursery as the proud big sister. And I see, and he was a month premature. He was teensy tiny, and he was like this big and so skinny because he was premature. He was skinny, and you could see it. I didn't know
Okay.
what I was looking at, but you could see it. The slanty eyes, the yellow skin, the big tongue.
Okay.
I saw it. Again, you asked me, did you know? I didn't know, but I knew that
Okay.
that wasn't what David looked like when he came home. And my other neighbors' little kids when they came home. So I got it. I don't know what it was, but I got it. And then I went to see my mother, who didn't have a clue. Isn't he adorable? He's so tiny, so skinny. Don't you love him? I said, absolutely. And I thought, just like I wrote in the book, how does she not know? I know. How does she? Whatever. And they tell me that his name is Bruce. So, oh no, that happened when she came home. So we're done. We walk out of the hospital, and I say to my father, I know about Brucey. I mean, I know about the baby, right? I know about the baby. I don't know about the name yet. I know about the baby. He doesn't say to me, are you scared? This is what it means. He just says, well, you know, it's going to be a long haul. It's going to be very hard. It's going to be a challenge. I didn't know what to say. I just know that that's not what I thought I'd hear. She came home, and that's when I guess he knew. She came home, and she was in their bedroom, in bed. The baby didn't come home with her because he wasn't ready to come home yet as a premature baby.
Yes.
And so she didn't call David and me in together. She told us individually. That was the other strange thing. Wouldn't you tell both your kids? You have a 9-year-old. And wouldn't the older child help the younger child understand this could be a challenge? But that's not what they did. They brought David in first, and he walks out of the room, skipping out of the room. I don't know what they told him.
Yes.
They brought me in. They told me my mother was crying. I can't even, I know I said something stupid because I didn't know what to say because I didn't want her to know I already knew. And they said to me, and we're not bringing him home. We're going to put him in an institution, which is why they didn't bring us in together. And they told me what institution they were going to put him in. And I proceeded to walk out of that bedroom and go to my Britannica encyclopedia to see if I could look up this institution. And the pictures in that page haunt me to this day.
Wow.
Right. And I brought the book in and I put it on the bed. And I know in anger, I said to them, I wouldn't walk my dog there, and this baby is not going there. And I walked out of the room. And I went to pack a suitcase for for David and me. And then I called my other grandmother. I called my grandmother that was closest to us, that would have been easy to get to, because I didn't want to be in the house with them.
All this decision is at age 18, right?
13.
13,
13.
sorry.
13.
13, yeah.
David was
Yeah.
9. I was going to be 13. He was going to be 9. Bruce was born in August.
Yeah.
David would have been 9 in October. I would have been 13 in December. I called my grandmother and I was crying and I told her what was happening. And I said, and we're coming to stay with you. And she got off the phone and she called my other grandparents. She rallied the troops and my grandparents came over to the house. And they convinced my parents that they would help take care of the baby. So the baby came home. Brucey came home. And that's when I found out that his name wasn't going to be Matthew Bryan. It was going to be Bruce. because they didn't, in their words, and again, I don't want the audience to think that this is rage or resentment. This is
Yeah.
pain. This was pain. This was a lack of coping, unadulterated fear, and I can't do this and you can't make me. And we've all been there. Every single one of us has been there sometime in our life of just frozen by fear. And so, at 13, you don't know this. I mean, instinctively, I guess I did, but that didn't mean this child was going to suffer because they were stuck. This wasn't happening. And nor did they realize the assets that they had in their other two children, because we were already older. We could take the brunt of helping with
Yeah.
him. And we were willing. I thought, this is so exciting for David to have a baby brother, to look up to him like I had. This was now
Yeah.
David's turn to have a boy doll like I had with him. It was perfect. And he needed us. So they rallied, they came, they stayed. Brucey came home. And, my mother asked strange questions. So, not getting it, I didn't realize that, eventually he'd be given to a group home, but eventually he was not going to stay home. They did the best for him that they were capable of doing. Whether I agreed or didn't agree, at the time I wasn't an adult and he wasn't my child. And I fought for guardianship, but my mother stepped in at that and prevented that from happening. When I turned 18, I had been declared legally independent through college because they just couldn't get it together to do their taxes so I could get my financial aid. And inevitably it was always late. I couldn't deal with that anymore. And so I had a great mentor at college. And my father and I went to the governor. And at 18, I was signed legally independent of them. And my mother was smart enough to know that if I was legally independent of them, I could become legal guardian of Brucey at 18. And then they would have no rights over him. They would not be able to do anything without me saying yay or nay. And that's when I went away to college and they arranged for him to go into a group home. And when a child goes into a group home, they become a ward of the state. Therefore, I could not become his legal guardian. That was her one gift, that her head was together for that. May not have been together for much other at the time, but she knew what it could cost me. And she was not going to let that happen. There was other things that, she let slip and I became in charge of all that stuff. But until, she got it together, but that she was not going to let slip. That she was right, Johnny, on the spot. And that might have been the turning point when her brain clicked in and said, I am the mom. I am the adult. And life went on from that. But that was a really, being children, most children, even when we're upset, we're angry, we're disappointed, we don't get what we blah, 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 there's always hope. And because we don't know as much about life as adults, we don't know what's supposed to be. It didn't matter to us if Brucey walked at a year or 18 months or age 2. He'd walk. But to a parent that's already had children and watched children in the neighborhood, it was a constant reminder that he would struggle.
Yes.
So and the neighbors that known us since we were children, they were afraid of my brother. They did encourage their children to play with him. And I thought, he's a child, a baby. What can a baby possibly do? I could see, listen, the fact that I was crazy about all animals, I never understood the fear of animals, but you can't talk to an animal. And animals can be vicious. I get it. Animals can bite, animals get scared, animals can jump. But a baby? Really? So that was a hard lesson to understand that if these adults that know us don't get it, what's the rest of the world going to be like? And so that's when I think, I went away to college. It wasn't to go into education. I still wanted to be a veterinarian. I wanted to be the voice of those that didn't have one. So I was still the voice of those that didn't have one. I just changed the species.
Okay.
That was the
Okay.
drive. It was not a drive to be a teacher. I understood education could take, well, at the time I thought I understood education could take care of that, but I was happy to be a different kind of spokesperson, not just education. And so I was the one that insisted he be included in everything. I made the kids play with him. I took him everywhere. David and I didn't even know that we were patterning, but we worked with him to walk and talk and read and sing, whatever. And love of animals. If he was afraid, we didn't tolerate that fear. We worked so that he would have the confidence. It didn't matter that nobody wanted to play with him. We would play with him. You know, they saw a woman a couple of years ago when the book came out, sent me a beautiful picture, and it said, if you want to know how to deal with a special needs child, talk to their siblings. Their siblings know. And it's the truth. We were totally devoted. We were all devoted to each other. And it was like, you know, my parents were on one little ship out at sea and we were at another ship out at sea. And we were parallel, but we never we were at odds. Again, my parents, they never got the assets. They got that my grandparents were there, but they never got what, I can't decide still, all these years later, if they didn't get that we were assets or they didn't want to burden us. But we were family, and I never got that we weren't allowed to be that I don't get it to this day. You know, when my brother got sick and I let the family know, they rallied. My nieces called all the time. We Zoomed all the time. They were there to support me. They sent pictures. They were kidding. They were an amazing support system because I allowed them and encouraged them to be, and they never let me down, ever let me down through the entire ordeal. The death, the funeral, they couldn't be there. It was COVID. But they never stopped working at making sure whatever I needed, they were Johnny on the spot. And so I realized how much my parents missed not letting us do that or not getting that we could do that for them. It was a shame. I felt bad for them. My heart hurt for them that they missed that. They totally missed that. And I understand being able to reap all those benefits. Lucky me. But isn't that a shame that they just couldn't let that in? I felt bad for them at that time.
Yeah, it's not. Okay, thank you so much. I think to some extent, I think one of the reasons why this platform is existing is for this kind of discussion. You know, it makes the book so easy to read. You know, it makes it, you know, you could feel the connection between the author and those who are going to read us. You know, and one thing I must say concerning this book is that it is difficult to see siblings connect with their brother or sisters or the relations with disabilities. You know, but you've proven to us that there is more to just being for parents to just connect these children with these children than the siblings themselves. The siblings understand their brother or sister who is having disability more than the parents themselves, because they usually create time to play, and then they get to understand more of the person more than parents. Parents are there worrying, especially when it comes to the ones that is the last born in the house, and it came with that kind of disability. You know, parents, it can take them years to begin to still trying to, you know, accept this that is happening, with the fact that they go out there and people ask them a lot of questions about their children and that particular child. How are you coping with him? And, you know, there is kind of derogatory statement people pass, and inciting words that could really hurt you as if you are not strong. And I think that's why parents will have to deal with that. And again, in your book, you took time to know your brother and to ensure that you fight for him. This is very rare. It's very rare. Even at that tender age, you started that. It is very rare. At age 13, you took this and you took a decision that helped your brother till death.
Yeah.
I feel that yeah, it's something that we should give you credit. I have been working with children with special needs for about 15 years now, but I can tell you categorically, there are these parts that we see them rarely. We don't see them. Siblings connecting with their brothers with disability. I know parents can be so attached, but to some extent, they are not really attached because they want to really know, but they are protecting the child. But in your own case, you want him to be part of the family. You want the society to love him. You want everybody to accept him for who he is. You literally fought for him right from beginning till now. So I feel this book, I must give you credit for this book. I didn't even see this explanation coming to this point, that it is to tell people, if you have a child with disability, it is very easy. You made it very easy for people outside there. I don't know if the feedbacks you're getting from people are relatable, or like this thing that I'm trying to tell you. I don't know if there are some things like this, because the situations are sometimes it's very difficult for people to really say that this is my brother. That is where discrimination starts, from the family. But for you, you ensure that the society accept him as a person, and you keep fighting for him even when you turn 18. So it's like you were waiting for yourself to turn 18, so that you will say, okay, I can take control everything about my brother.
Right.
So honestly, I would say this is a very big thing. I've learned something today. Honestly, I have learned something. Yeah.
So I have to tell you, David was just as committed. It wasn't just me. David had a very different personality. He was outgoing, but not a this. That was not David's personality. If I said to him, I need you to do this, it was there.
Okay.
And it wouldn't, be there. But David was just as devoted to Bruce. It was two of us. I was the fighter, but I took both of them with me. And it took a long time before I came to accept that what would have happened if David was 13 and I was 9.
Yes.
Not this. It wasn't David's personality. It wasn't David that would have gone. As much as I love David, he was a great brother.
Oh.
He was a great younger brother. He was a great older brother. He's a great guy. He was just a great guy, but he's not me. He's not me. And so he wasn't that kind of, it wasn't there. So it took a long time. People said to me, before I put the ad title of How My Down Syndrome Brother Saved My Life, when I was writing this, because he had passed away I knew he was going to die. And then when he died, it was a done deal. It was, how do I ensure he's remembered, especially by family? And nobody knew that beginning story. Nobody knew why I was the guardian. Nobody knew why that devotion. They didn't know those chain of events that drastically changed his life. I mean, it could have been How We Saved Each Other. The subtitle, not just How He Saved My Life, is How We Saved Each Other, because I don't know what would have happened had I not been there. Had I not been there, where would he be? It was not going to be in a group home that was loving and supportive. So yes, I did save him. I did fight for him. I fought for David too. They were the underdogs, and that's my personality. So literally, I used to fight for the dogs and the animals. I just changed species of the underdog. But it helped me become me, because I never fought for me. I never I was not my own advocate. You, not that I let you walk all over me, but I was shy that way. And having to come up with a voice. So if I didn't fight for me, I'd fight for them. And I didn't back down. And I wasn't shy anymore because they couldn't do it. So I got over the me because it wasn't about me when I fought for them. And that taught me to fight for myself because I never would have made it through college and financial aid and getting myself independent if I hadn't already been on that road. So that was the part of the how he, you know, saved my life, because I might have become a veterinarian. I don't know. And I would have helped many, many animals. But like, you know, at the end, not to be a spoiler, but the answer of God was the, you know, yeah, you would have been a great veterinarian. But when you finally came to your senses and decided to go into education that needed you, look what you accomplished. It was the truth. So it wasn't, you know, just for Bruce. He taught me that patience, because if at 13 or even 18, you'd have said to me, my aunt wanted me to be a teacher. And I said to her, are you kidding? I would rather have root canal done on my mouth without Novocaine than walk into a classroom and take care of all those kids. And she used to laugh. And but look what happened. You know, you come full circle to your life sometimes if you listen. So, you know, wasn't education wasn't first, and nor was a goal ever to be an author. Look what Brucey created. He got me into education, true calling, still work with children today, even though I'm retired. And I became an author when I never thought that would happen, because I was driven to write that story. I mean, that's how the book opens. That's exactly how it opens of I never, that's exactly what it said. It was never my intention to be an author.
Okay. All right. Thank you so very much, Ma. For those who watched now and after, we've been speaking to Lynn Podright, who is the author of Listen to Me. And the story is about her brother. And I feel it's something that we can always learn from. So before we wrap up, we have a few minutes to go before we wrap up now. And let's talk about the part where I want to believe in your book. There's a part where you could mention advice to people who are going to read this book. You know, the good parts of we know that it's challenging to have a person with disability, but there are things that you definitely learn from him, and advice that you could give people who are already going through similar situation with you. What are some of the advice that you mentioned in your book, one way or the other?
So I would have to say it's a great question. It's a very good question. And I so appreciate you understanding that it's there to help people. It wasn't just to toot a story. It's there to show that there is definitely a light at the end of the rainbow.
Yes.
Willing, ask for help. There wasn't support out there when we were growing up. There's so many organizations now. If you just Google Down syndrome organizations, they're there. Ask for help. Let your family be part of it. And don't be ashamed. Nobody did anything wrong. It is unfortunately, God, why did you do this? And even then, what's the difference? Who cares why? It is what it is. It is a journey. And if you allow people in, they will help you. And it's not so much for help, it's so that you don't feel isolated and alienated. Yes, there are different levels of Down syndrome. I don't know what level their families are. There are levels. There used to be an actor. There was a show. Down syndrome kids are acting. They're in lawyer offices. There are levels of that, but without just forget Downs. There's autism. There's Down syndrome. There's so many different disabilities, and learn to take time and enjoy whatever life there is. Because if you make a commitment, I'm not saying it's easy. I didn't say it was easy. I didn't say, oh, look at me, look what I did. That is not what I'm saying. But I wake up, people say, oh, I thank, how are you feeling? Oh, well, I thank God I woke up another day. I expect to wake up another day. I don't expect to go to sleep and not wake up. That's just my attitude. Okay. Yeah. And I am grateful for everything that I have in this life whether I lost my other brother recently, but I'm grateful I had him. So if you wake up and you are determined to find anything to have a positive about, that makes the difference. And your sibling, your loved one, whoever is afflicted with this, they bring joy too. Brucey made me laugh all the time. He made me laugh all the time, even in the doctor's office, even during the horrible experience with his kidney transplant or giving blood or an operation or having to, FaceTime with him in the hospital when he doesn't want to be there. And I'm 4,000 miles away, and still the threat of him saying to me, I don't want to do this. And me saying, do I have to come there? And him going, no, you don't have to come. Not understanding I couldn't get there anyway. Do I have to come there? No, you don't have to come. I'll be good. That kind of thing. So there is joy everywhere if you are willing to take the little pieces, steps. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. And if there's love, there's survival. Period. And we didn't just survive. We all flourished because we wanted to.
Yes.
We wanted to. The three of us wanted to. We wanted him to flourish. We wanted each other to flourish. We wanted each one of us to flourish. And because we wanted that, we did.
Yes.
And that's it. We did.
Yeah. Thank you so very much, ma. She said,
you.
if there is love, there will be survival. Love will bring survival to all of us. Yes, if there's love, there will be survival.
Right.
So thank you so very much, ma. Thank you so very much. I want to give you 1 or 2 minutes to say wrap up the whole discussion, like the general overview of your book, just points in point view before we just say, I'll just give you 3 minutes to do that before we say bye-bye for now.
All right, so fortunately, I do want to do one plug. You see this little gold thing? My book did win gold from the National Association of Nonfiction Authors. When it was first out, it did win gold. It has a 5-star review. And what people have taken away from the book are, I guess, 3 main things. One, it made quite a few of the reviewers decide to rethink their sibling relationships.
Okay.
So it's about siblings, it's about love, it's about support, it's about being an advocate for yourself and others. We cannot just allow, because it's a bad situation, we can't allow a bad thing to happen because it's a bad situation. You have to be an advocate. You just do. You have to find it somewhere. You don't have to do it by yourself, okay? But love doesn't really make the world go round. It's all about family, the one you choose and the one you have. I've chosen to have an amazing extended family from my brother's group home, and we're still close. They were all there at the funeral, even with COVID. They were there with masks on, and we went back to the group home. And in the Jewish faith, it's a shiva, but we got together and there was no mourning. I wouldn't allow it. We mourned at the cemetery. We had champagne and we honored a life and we told stories. And there are always good memories. You have to share those memories. You have to be willing, like I said, you have to be willing to find love. You have to be willing to find the positive, and you have to be willing to tell the story. You don't have to write a memoir. My brothers, we all talked about each other. Everybody knew that I had a brother, David. Everybody knew I had a brother, Bruce. David. Everybody knew he had a sister. Everybody knew he had a brother, Brucey. Everybody knew he had a brother, David. And everybody knew that he had his big sister, who he loved more than anything else in the world, because that's how we talked about it. He had a big sister. And David had moved away, but he always visited and he always talked. But once I had the time, I would go to different meetings, and inevitably I would walk in. I never had to say a word, and they would say, "Oh my God, this is the infamous big sister." Allow your family to be your support. Allow all family and all friends. We need each other. It doesn't get done alone. Nothing gets done alone. Business doesn't get done alone, and neither does life. And if you don't decide to take life by your own hands, no matter what, and decide to live it, what a loss. And I think that's the biggest thing I felt for my parents writing this, and it's in the book, was my heart hurt because they couldn't do it. They couldn't let themselves do it. They took little things. They went on trips. They loved us. They celebrated things. They did the holidays. But there was still that hole that they wouldn't allow to heal. They wouldn't allow. There are people that when my brother passed away and we were running, having to have this funeral, there were people that didn't know that knew my parents, that didn't know I had a baby brother. They knew about the two of us. They didn't know about him. It's unacceptable. Yeah. Everybody is special, and everybody adds life and love to your heart. Your heart knows that. Your brain has to catch up.
Yes.
Your heart knows.
Yes. Thank you so very much, Ma. I must say, in all this, Bruce died a hero. That's what I'm going to tell you.
He was my hero.
He died a hero, and his name has been written in gold. So we say, may his soul rest in peace, and his story will continue to inspire people outside there now and forever. I know that people that will continue to read this book will get inspired every time. All right, Toma, before you go, if someone wants this book, how can they get it?
It's on Amazon. It's on Amazon. So it's a paperback. So the paperback is $4.99, but the ebook's only $2.99.
Okay.
So it's on Amazon. If you put in "Listen to Me" or my name, but you have to add the "How My Down" syndrome, because there must be 10 books in there that say "Listen to Me." But it is on Amazon. It's easy to get, and when you go on Amazon, the other book comes up as well, so don't get confused. So there's a children's book and there's this book. So, but this is the book about Percy.
Okay. All right.
But it is on Amazon. It's very easy to get.
Okay. All right. Okay. For those of you who, if you need this book and you can't get it directly from Amazon, contact me and I'll link you up with the author herself so that you get a copy of this book. Meanwhile, I'm going to advise for us to keep progressing. Please share our videos. Let the whole world know that we're doing this to ensure that the world becomes a better place. From reading this book through listening to us, you have finished reading the book, but you can still go to Amazon and get a copy for yourself. It has been amazing talking to Lynn Portwright. I hope I pronounced it very well.
You did.
Yeah, it has been an amazing
it has been an honor and a pleasure to be with you, because what you're doing is amazing. So he said to you, keep sending this along. He's a wonderful person, kind and gracious. So we need to support the two of us. We need to support the two of us. It's your job.
Thank you so much.
Go forward there and do that.
Yes, thank you so very much. And this is going to be the end of the program for today. I hope to see you in other episodes. My name is Godsave David, and I've been speaking to Lynn Portwright, who is from the US, and she has come to talk to us about her book. And this book is an inspiring book. This is a story, life story from her brother. Thank you so much for encouraging us. We always love to have you here. Yes, we always love to have you here if you're going to be available. So keep talking. Thank you so very much, Ma. And again, guys, I will see you again in another episode. It has been a wonderful moment talking to her. Thank you so very much, and see you again. Thank you, Ma. Bye-bye, Ma.
Bye. Okay.
Bye. Yes, Ma.
So I have to stop recording if I could find it. Now I lost it. There you go.